Hello and welcome to Inside Sports. I'm your host, Todd Blackstock. On today's show, we'll head over to the St. Louis Sports Hall of Fame induction ceremony featuring an NHL Hall of Famer and a longtime sports commissioner. Plus, we'll have in studio, we'll be joined by a member of the Bally's NHL broadcast crew and a board member from Centene Center who will share some exciting events coming to town. So stay with us for this and much more coming up next on Inside Sports. Welcome, everyone. In studio today, we have the chairman of the Legacy Ice Foundation in St. Louis. He helps operate the Centene Center in Maryland Heights and is a silent member of the St. Louis Blues broadcast team. At this time, we welcome Dave Otto to Inside Sports. Dave, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Todd.
Now, you're with the Bally Sports broadcast crew, and you sit there with John Kelly and the team there. What's your function?
My function is a statistician. So my job, the way I see it, is to make the broadcast a little more interesting for the viewer and to help John and make his job easier. He's got a lot of things going on. So I give him notes and feed him information, and then it's his job to figure out what is going to be important for the viewers to hear.
So if there's like an icing or a penalty or something, you're on it. Do you like whisper in his ear, or are you like in a microphone? Or?
We used to use sticky notes. Now it's a little more electronic. So we have a nice system where we have group text messages and everybody can see what's going on. And so I text John even though he's sitting 3 feet from him.
All right, well, that's got to help. Now, do these guys, do they watch the game with binoculars, or do they watch the monitors?
No, John watches the game just through his eyes on the ice. Yeah, rarely looks at the monitor, just for replays, really.
So how'd you get that gig?
Well, 2001, a friend of mine called. He was interning at the Blues, and he said, I need some help tonight working the game as a statistician. I said, I don't know what to do. He said, put a coat and tie on, bring a pencil and paper, and come on down. I went down and worked the game. I was responsible for tracking Al McInnes, Chris Pronger, Joe Thornton on the Boston Bruins, and everything was pencil and paper. And I did my job, and at the end of the game, I was pretty worn out. And the director came on and said, thanks for coming down. How many years you've been doing this? And I said, well, this is my first game. And he said, okay, you're hired. So I've been down there almost 23 years now. Wow,
the St. Louis Blues have had some legendary broadcasters over the years. Dan Kelly was one of the great all-time announcers. And, John came in, I guess he got some help from his dad, but, he stands on his own right, and he's done major hockey around the world, and we're lucky to have him back in St. Louis.
Yeah, we are, and, he's a professional. When he was a kid, growing up, going to Parkway North High School, he would listen to his dad's games, record them on cassette, and practice. Watch the games on TV. So even as an 8, 9, 10-year-old, when he first moved here to St. Louis, he was practicing being an announcer. He still works very hard. One of the hardest working announcers that I've been around for 24 years.
The game's really evolved from rough and tough, back from the Sutter brothers and Bob Probert in the 70s and 80s and 90s. And now it's more of a finesse game, would you say?
Yeah, it is. The old Norris division, they used to call it the Chuck Norris division, right? So if you didn't have a fight in a game, then something was wrong. And the toughness is still there, but the players are so skilled and they can get away from trouble. And so you don't have the slow skating, big bruising guys anymore. You can't afford it. With a salary cap, you can't afford to have somebody on your team that's just a goon. You need talent, whether it's defensive talent or offensive talent now.
Well, the Blues won the Stanley Cup in 2019, and you had a pretty unique and exciting assignment, didn't you?
I did. So during Game 5 in Boston, I was actually with the radio show at that time. The president of the Blues, Chris Zimmerman, came up to me after the first period and asked me what my summer plans were. And I said, just regular summer, nothing special. And he said, would you like to be in charge of the Stanley Cup tour if we win this thing? And I said, yes, or something yes. And I didn't tell anyone really until we won because I didn't want to jinx it. I figured if I told anyone that I was going to be responsible for the cup, I would jinx it. So I didn't say a word until we won.
Well, you probably saw so many. You had what? Each player had like at least a day So tell us all the places, or a few that you've been around the world with, and maybe some of the unique experiences of what some of the Blues players and team members drank, ate, and did with the Stanley Cup.
Well, every St. Louis food you can imagine was had out of the cup. So, of course, toasted ravioli.
That was at Charlie Gito's.
Pat Maroon, right? Pat Maroon had it down at Charlie Gito's. We had pork steaks.
In the cup.
In the cup. Gooey butter cake, Ted Drew's, and, of course, all of the products from our favorite brewery down on Pestalozzi Street. So all of that and then some. It was a summer. It was about 110 days long. We picked the cup up in Boston the night we won, and I was fortunate enough to drop the cup off at the White House 110 days later.
So you were at the White House with President Trump? That was funny, watching all the Blues players laugh when he was talking. It was a unique experience for you. How many countries do you think? Did you go to the different countries with
I
the
didn't.
team,
I didn't go to the countries with the cup. The cup keepers went. I was more focused on the schedule because we had over 280 parties just in the United States that we had to get to, and then we had about 70 parties in Canada and 30 or 40 parties in Europe. And so the logistics of moving the cup around the world with airlines and rental cars and hotels, that was my role, was to get it from A to B and as quickly as possible.
I saw Ryan O'Reilly, former Blues player, when I was going to Westport one day, and he pulled out of his truck and he was holding up a plaque, or I think it was the cup. He was just like randomly showing it to people. And it was such a neat experience. Do you have like one great memory or one great party that really stands out?
Well, Pat Maroon's party was legendary. So we can't get into a lot of the details, but it's still, if you ask the cup keepers today, what was the craziest party you've ever been to? Pat Maroon's name is going to come up.
Well, he married Charlie Gito's granddaughter, Francesca.
Right.
And so I remember the parade was amazing going down Market Street, and she was sitting up on a big rig, as they came in. That's neat. Well, hey, members of the 2019 St. Louis Blues hoisted, drank, and ate from Lord Stanley Cup. And right now we're going to visit the downtown Missouri Athletic Club and catch up with an NHL Hall of Famer who now takes his place with St. Louis sports legends. And joining me now is NHL Hall of Famer Chris Pronger. Chris, your jersey is retired by the St. Louis Blues. You're here tonight being inducted in the St. Louis Sports Hall of Fame. Seems like it might be in reverse, but congratulations. And
this is the final ending. This is it. This puts a stamp on it.
It does. Now your career is complete now.
Yes.
I remember when you came to St. Louis, I was in the locker room. I'm looking around. There's like Wayne Gretzky and, all these like Grant Fuhr, all these people in there. And I asked you a question about Mike Keenan, and you gave me this look like I was like kind of crazy or something. It was funny. But I saw you later that night, and you're out with the boys having a good time, and you really meshed with the team and the crew, and you really won over the people here in St. Louis.
Was not a excellent start. Let's use some positive terminology. It wasn't an excellent start, but it was a great ending, and enjoyed my 10 years playing here in St. Louis, and obviously now it's my home for the last 11. So spent 21 of my few years on Earth here in St. Louis. So it's been a lot of fun, and very appreciative of this honor.
Just so you know, my roommate at the time when that trade went down, he's like, I like that trade. He's like, Pronger was like the second overall pick. I mean, this guy is a huge defenseman. He's going to be one of the classic defensive players of all time. He was telling me that at the time, and it turned out to be true. It did.
He was a visionary. Yeah. Good for him.
So talk about your experience. You still spend a lot of time here in St. Louis, and what does it mean to come around here at the Missouri Athletic Club's 120th anniversary in conjunction with this?
It's great to be here. I did not know it was the 120th anniversary. That's amazing. Good to be a part of this class that gets to do that. But obviously a lot of great sports athletes being inducted here tonight, and I'm honored to be a part of it.
The NHL is a business. Players come and go like commodities. But your heart, has a good spot here in St. Louis. And what are some of your maybe one or two greatest memories of being a St. Louis Blue and being here in St. Louis?
I think just being a part of the community, and my whole time here when I was a player, wanted to ingratiate myself with the community and be a part of it, give back to the community in philanthropic ways, and met my wife here, had 2 of my 3 kids here, and obviously now reside here. But St. Louis was a big part of my career. half of my NHL career was here in St. Louis. So it's certainly near and dear to my heart, and a big part of my life.
I wanted to ask you one thing that probably nobody's ever asked you before. I was at a winery in St. Genevieve, and the guys there at the winery, they're like, "That's Chris Pronger's old place up there." And there's like this huge lot on top of a bluff looking down, and you had that lot out there. Whatever happened with that?
I used to have a farm here. Sold it when I got traded, figuring, I'm probably not coming back for a while, so I better get rid of this thing. And I don't know. I think it's changed hands a couple times.
Is it?
Yeah, beautiful spot though.
Any final thoughts about going to the St. Louis Sports Hall of Fame before we let you go?
Excited, as I mentioned, a great class. Excited to be a part of it, and looking forward to getting on stage and extolling the St. Louis virtues.
Chris Pronger was a fierce and talented competitor. Dave, do you have any memories that jump out at you, about Chris Pronger, maybe when you're starting out as the Blues broadcast Bally's stat guy?
Yeah, well, my very first game, I was responsible for tracking Pronger, and in those days, we would go down to the locker room after the game to listen to the interviews and the post-game conference. And Pronger scored a goal in that first game, and I believe we won in overtime, if I'm not mistaken. And going down there and just being face-to-face with a professional athlete and seeing how fit they were and their routine. Some of the athletes, I don't think Pronger did it at the time, but would get on an exercise bike after the game. And that was just amazing to see the dedication that it takes to be at that level.
Wow, it's amazing. With Pronger, I remember he was with the Ducks and the Flyers, and he just became such a well-respected player. He was a beast. I mean, when they retired his number in St. Louis, I remember him slamming a nice cold one right there in front of the fans and made everybody happy. But he wasn't always that congenial with fans or especially opposing players.
No, right. That's what made Chris Pronger. And if you think about it, and you think back, we had Chris Pronger and Al McInnes on the same defensive pair in St. Louis. It's really a crime and a shame that we didn't win the Cup in 2000, 2001 with those two guys manning the D-line. Any team today would take those two guys.
Hey, we're going to take a quick break now, but when we return, we'll check in again at the MAC and catch up with another inductee into the St. Louis Sports Hall of Fame. Plus, our conversation with Dave Otto will continue. Stay with us.
Hi. Hoping for a crisp breeze to help keep you alert. Oh, he took a sip of water too. That'll probably help. You were probably gonna turn down the radio too, so you could focus, right?
Probably okay isn't okay.
Right.
If you see a warning sign, stop and call a cab, a car, or a friend.
I think the water line is what really drove it home. I blew on him.
Dad?
Just 1 minute, okay?
Hey, Bobo, do trees tell each other stories?
I'm sorry. I'm afraid I don't know that.
Hey, why don't we go find out? Listen.
Do clouds take naps?
I couldn't tell you.
Can birds draw pictures?
I don't have an answer for that.
Dad, do stars visit their friends?
Look!
Frank Viverito, the longtime commissioner of the St. Louis Sports Commission. Frank, congratulations. It's been so long that you've been with St. Louis, and you came here, you brought a drive, an attitude, and a vision. And you brought so many major events to St. Louis, and tonight's your night to go and be enshrined in the St. Louis Sports Hall of Fame. Congratulations.
Well, thank you, Todd. And it's a labor of love, and more than anything else, a total team effort. That's the one thing that I would like to take credit for. It's just building a team. that's done all these wonderful things and brought all these wonderful events to St. Louis.
You know, with STL TV and City 16 and City TV 10 and different channels we've been over the years with the city, the St. Louis Sports Commission has always been there for us, and you know, we've always tried to cover the events, and you guys have always given us an opportunity to have great access, and we really appreciate that, and it's a testament to what you bring to the city of St. Louis. And when you came here, what was your original vision? Because you kind of took the ball and it was your baby, wasn't it?
Well, when we moved to St. Louis, I was a trailing spouse. I came with my wife Patty's worked for the Missouri Valley Conference for 42 years. And so I didn't know which end was up here, but I quickly learned. And the vision was to take a region, which is already, I think, got the deepest sports history and the most passionate fans, and elevate it in the way that we have with these major events and trying to put the region on the national and the international map.
You know, we've had NCAA Final Fours here, and you know, we've had so many different events. Looking back through all the hard work, what are some of your crowning achievements that you think that you were involved with a little bit and you helped facilitate coming to St. Louis?
They're not my achievements at all. They're that team, you know, the team's achievements. And you know, I think back to the 2005 men's Final Four. I don't know that St. Louis has ever had sort of a prouder moment. It was such a great weekend and such a great event. I think to the Musial Awards, which we do every year, and we had 2 million viewers nationally on television last year, and I just think of all the people who have come together. That's what it's all about. It's the people, from Jackie Joyner Kersey to all of our wonderful volunteers. It's just, like I say, it's a labor of love, and this region deserves to have great sports because of the passion of the fans and the history that we celebrate all the time.
You know, a couple of women's Final Fours here in St. Louis were tremendous, and some of the players that were in those Final Fours are still playing in the WNBA today.
Exactly. And one of my favorite women's basketball players from St. Louis is Kristen Fogle. And Kristen was on our staff for 9 years as our development director at the Sports Commission, and my wife Patty was the tournament director for both of the women's Final Fours that came to town. And we had players like Jackie Stiles, who were here, and Neil Ivey, who was here and brought her team back last year to play Cal at Enterprise Center. It's just, it's year after year, event after event, and one of the coolest things about it is it's brought $1 billion in new dollars to this region, and we're pretty proud of that too.
Mark's taken over and is doing a great job, and we just want to congratulate you for your success.
Sure. My successor is Mark Schreiber. We've worked together for 25 years, and I just love advising him, and I can't wait to see how successful he is with the organization.
Well, thank you so much, Frank. Congratulations.
Thanks,
it's time for you to go up.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Very deserving honor for Frank Viverito. Well, Dave Otto is with us, and when he's not working on Blues broadcasts, he helps oversee the Centene Center in Maryland Heights in conjunction with the St. Louis Sports Commission. Centene has recently landed a big-time hockey showcase that will bring a lot of revenue to our region. Dave, as the chair of the Legacy Ice Foundation, I wanted to ask you, coming out, the St. Louis Sports Commission teams up with you guys, and all of a sudden there's just another great event coming to Centene Center. Can you fill us in?
So in 2 months, month of March, we're going to have the best college hockey players in the world, basically for the whole month. So we've got the ACHA Championships, which is the College Club Hockey Championships. That's going to go on for about a week and a half. 78 to 80 teams will be coming in from all over the country. And of course, the ACHA was here a few years ago. They loved it so much, they're going to come back for the next 4 to 5 years. So we're excited for that. And then at the end of March, we've got the NCAA Frozen Four Regionals. So just like the Final Four in basketball, we're going to have the regional finals here, and we're just waiting to see who makes that tournament. Are we going to get a Michigan and an Ohio and a Duluth and a Colorado? I don't know. But it's coming up at the end of March.
So how long are these events? What are we talking about with hotel rooms and expenses, and how much money do you think it'll generate to the region?
Well, that's where the St. Louis Sports Commission really comes in, because they are they really lead and tell us what's going on. But we'll have thousands of rooms of hotel space that are taken. All the restaurants in the area will be used. With 78 teams, you're talking 20 to 30 guys per team, and then the entourage that comes along with them. And some of these teams will come in minivans, and some will come in giant coaches. And it's just fun to see, but it's a great event. And the city of Maryland Heights is pretty much the center of college hockey universe for about a month.
Wow. I understand that you're very focused on having a lot of women's hockey over there at Centene Center. There's a lot of great women's hockey programs here in the St. Louis area. And there's some other universities and teams that use Centene as their primary ice.
Right. So Lindenwood, which is now Division I, Lindenwood has Division I men's and Division I women's hockey that play at Centene all the time. So you come out and watch some really good hockey. I've skated with some of these women, and they're very fast, much faster than I'll ever be, and very good. It's a fun event to watch. We had the USA women's team play the Canadian women's team just a year or so ago at Centene, and then early next year, early in 2024, we will have the new Professional Women's Hockey League starting up, and we're hoping to get some showcase games with that. But really, the center of the universe, we think, center of the universe for girls hockey should be St. Louis. Why not?
And why not? I mean, you've got a lot of St. Louis Blues alumni in town. A lot of the kids, boys and girls, have played hockey, and many of them are rising up through the ranks. I bet you've seen a lot of these kids, Blues alumni, sons and daughters, growing up, and now they're playing professional hockey.
Yeah, and we have, at Centene, we have a hockey school. So TPH is a magnet school for high school kids that want to play hockey. They play hockey and do athletics for 3-4 hours a day, and then they do their schoolwork for 3 or 4 hours a day. So when we were growing up, we didn't have the opportunity to have a magnet school for hockey, and now it exists in St. Louis, and we have about 70 kids in the program right now.
Wow. Well, how cool is it you were nice enough to give a few of us on a reunion tour recently, a tour of Centene Center, and one of the highlights I thought was the St. Louis Blues alumni locker room and lounge area.
It's fun, you know, I'm not sure what the statistics are these days, but at one point in time, the St. Louis Blues alumni was the second largest alumni group in the NHL. Calgary had a bigger group at the time. But part of the reason is we have such a great facility for them. The Blues treat them really well. They have their own box at all Blues games. And then, of course, we have the alumni locker room, which is just a wonderful home away from home for these guys.
Let's talk about some of the programs. You've got an awesome concert venue out there. We've got some great events coming up next year in 2024. But just think about it. You've got couches out there and heaters and high tops, and you can generate and turn the outside and the inside into great meeting and event spaces. There's several of them there. Could you maybe explain some of those to us?
So St. Louis Music Park, when it starts to warm up, our outdoor ice rink, which is covered, goes away, and that turns into St. Louis Music Park. Last year we had about 25 concerts. This year we hope to have between 25 and 30 concerts. Jason Mraz and Judas Priest and a bunch of country acts, and so we hit about every genre you can imagine out there, and it's a great venue. Only 4,500 seats, so everybody's close to the stage. Everybody has a good view. Everybody can hear it just fine.
So with Centene Center, you can go out there and skate. You can go out there and watch the St. Louis Blues practice. You can go see Lindenwood and some of these other tournaments out there. But can you also just go out there and, you know, have dinner and drinks? And is it open to the public to rent it out for some of these spaces?
It's open to the public. We rent ice all the time, and we have one of the best chefs in St. Louis. You may not think it, but at 314 Social, which is our restaurant, the food is absolutely tremendous. And I go out there for dinner all the time and then catch a hockey game, whether it's a youth hockey game or a Lindenwood club game or maybe a Lindenwood D1 game. It's a great place to go, and I encourage you to go try our food.
Well, any final thoughts? I know there's a large variety of beverages and food things, different ways you can do it. You can do Mexican, you can do Italian. You can kind of create your own venue, create your own party.
I think the final thought would be with the highlight and really the fad around bourbon these days. we have several bourbon picks. So if you're a bourbon fan, we've got some bourbon out there that you can only get at the Centene Community Ice Center. Can't get it anywhere else.
Final thoughts here. Chris Pronger is involved with something with a new beverage line. And if someone wants to get a hold of Centene Center to book an event, what should they do?
Go to the website, CentineCommunityIceCenter.com. That's where we're at. And yes, Chris Pronger launched his new Canadian whiskey, Journey, at the Centene Community Ice Center just a few months ago.
Wow, thanks a lot, Dave, for joining us. We appreciate it. That's our show for today. We'd especially like to thank the St. Louis Sports Hall of Fame and our studio guest today, Dave Otto. We'd like to thank you for watching Inside Sports on STL TV. Experience St. Louis.